Oh my God, new J Insider just dropped. Breaking, J Insider via Matthew Kessel. New Yorker Festival invites influencer on Piker who justified October 7 attacks as featured speaker. Piker, whose videos on Twitch and YouTube reach me. Oh, let's go. New hit pieces are back, baby. It's so funny because like the New Yorker not only invited me as a guest speaker, but like they also did positive coverage on me. And this is how I'm finding out we're doing something. Yeah. Yeah. That's how you're finding out that we're doing something off of me getting canceled again by Jewish Insider. Hosting hate. That's what they call this one. New Yorker Festival invites influencers who justified October 7 attacks as speaker. The ADL called the New Yorker's invitation of Hasan Piker the latest example of mainstream media normalizing his brand of anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism. Okay, don't parse through these two things as separate because it's this that you consider this, okay? There is no anti-Semitism. There's just anti-Zionism, and that's it. And that's what you hate. Anyway, here, he summarized it. Piker, whose videos on Twitch and YouTube reach millions of viewers, have faced criticism for justifying Hamas's October 7 terror attacks while forcefully denying some of the terror group's atrocities, such as widespread efforts of sexual violence that he dismisses rape fantasies and hallucinations. In one stream last year, Piker 34 argued that it doesn't matter if rapes happen on October 7. Like, that doesn't change the dynamic for me even this much, adding that Palestinian resistance is not perfect. He also described Orthodox Jews as inbred and called a Jewish man a bloodthirsty, violent pig dog, compared Zionists and Nazis, among other slurs seen as anti-Semitic. The Anti-Defamation League denounced the New Yorker's decision to platform Piker as the latest example of mainstream media normalizing a brand of anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism. The streamer's toxic and extreme rhetoric opposing Zionism and the Jewish state normalizes anti-Semitism, reinforces bigotry, and launders terror. And it has no place at the conference devoted to prominent influencers. An ADL spokesperson told the Jewish Insider on Wednesday, arguing that Piker's extreme statements on a range of topics should permanently disqualify him from appearing at any major media festival. The New Yorker Festival, an annual multi-day event in New York City, featuring well-known figures in the arts, media, and politics, previously faced backlash for inviting Steve Bannon, a former White House chief strategist. Dog, they had Steve Bannon on. You're comparing me to Steve Bannon? President who hosts a popular Mega World podcast, a headline conversation with the magazine's editor, David Remnick. Following major dropouts from participants who protest Bannon's appearance at the festival, as well as an internal object. Yeah, good luck. Okay, there's a very big difference between like hosting Steve Bannon and hosting someone like myself for having an opinion that is shared by the majority. Okay, that's the funniest part about this is like you're trying to be like, oh, Hasan is like Steve Bannon. He's a dangerous figure in American politics. Meanwhile, the positions that I hold that you are trying to actively bastardize by trying to find the most like negative framing possible with all these flip chimps is nowhere near. It's like the comparisons are so idiotic. I have no motion in comparison to Steve Bannon, and also my positions are not like to implement a white nationalist dystopia like Steve Bannon wants to. My position is I'm anti-genocide. I'm an anti-Zionist. Yeah, there's a bunch of people in mainstream media that despise me. And every single one of them is rapacious dick riders of the apartheid state, the criminal entity that is Israel. Following major dropouts from participants who protest Bannon's appearance at the festival, as well as internal objections raised by the magazine's employees, Remnick announced that he had decided to pull the invitation, saying that he did not want well-meaning readers and staff members to think that he had ignored the concerns regarding the controversial Trump ally. This is the ADL and Hasbara operatives trying to apply a similar style of pressure on the New Yorker magazine so they can get a hollow victory, which is so funny because if that were to take place, right? If the New Yorker magazine was like, hey, we really wanted you to come because we're trying to sell tickets. You're a very popular figure. We've written about you. We like what you have to say, right? And then they were like, hey, we don't want you to come anymore. Okay, who like that? Does that do anything to me? No, it's worse for the New Yorker magazine at its festival than it is for me, especially because the position that they have, the position that they would be stating here would be one that is pro-Israel at a time when there is unprecedented amount of Israel people out there. It's Israel o'clock. Wait, you got uninvited? No, I haven't. I mean, not that I know of, maybe, but They're trying to invoke that. They're trying to invoke a public pressure campaign. Chat, this kind of shit doesn't come out with one article on the Jewish Insider. This means that there will be like a bigger push. There will be a New York Post article. There might be a Fox News digital article as well. And if the New Yorker actually rescinds their invitation, then there will be like CNN articles and maybe even other articles as well. But it doesn't really matter because ultimately that's just like, it's nothing. Piker, a fierce opponent of Israel's right to exist, has more recently equated liberal Zionism with Nazism, according to a video of his remarks posted on social media last month. Zionism is an exterminationist ideology built around ethno-religious supremacist values, he said. I love when they post my dubs, dude. I love it. Anyway, in a conversation with Rashida Tlaib at the Democratic Socialists of America convention earlier this month. So when people say like, oh, well, I'm a liberal Zionist, I want there to be a Jewish ethno-state. I'm like, okay, what do you mean? It's like saying you're a liberal Nazi. Like you want an Aryan majority ethno-state? Representative Richie Torres has accused Piker of engaging in a textbook anti-Semitism, called on Twitch, who's owned by Amazon, to cut ties with the streamer, describing his comments as leading contributor to the explosion of Jew hatred on social media in the wake of Hamas October 7th. Blah, 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 blah. You already know that. While insisting his views have been misconstrued as opposition to Jewish people rather than the Israeli government, a claim his critics have interpreted as disingenuous. The streamer has otherwise mocked widespread concerns about rising global anti-Semitism, calling the issue a distraction from Israel's military conduct in Gaza. But even as he faced backlash for promoting anti-Semitic rhetoric, Piker has continued to draw friendly profiles on mainstream outlets. They sound so mad. They sound so butt mad. They sound ass mad, bro. They're like, why do they keep writing about him? Not realizing that these kinds of profiles they help. They help get me in front of, I don't know, like media executives and shit like that, right? But those kinds of profiles don't actually boost my profile at all in terms that I care about. It doesn't actually get, like, back in the day, that kind of shit would actually matter quite a bit. But unfortunately, nowadays, mainstream media doesn't have that kind of motion. Mainstream media does not have that kind of motion at all. Also, to say that I don't care about, like, rising global anti-Semitism is deeply untrue, obviously. I do, even though people obviously still use that or weaponize both real anti-Semitism and also the fake conflation between anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism as a vehicle to stop people from speaking out, against Israel's crimes. It's ridiculous. But yeah, I work in media tied to DC Beltway. Torres' press secretary blasted us out to every booking producer of both liberal networks. They're desperate. Wait, what? Richie Torres' press secretary still tries to stop me from getting booked on CNN? Is he that stupid? The only reason why I'm not getting booked on CNN is because I don't want to fly out to New York to get booked on NBC or CNN. If I wanted to, I would go on any number of these different mainstream networks. Does this guy think that he has any motion whatsoever in mainstream news? Does he not realize that half of the bookers are either in here or half of the producers also think Richie Torres is a clown? If you're pro-Israel at this point, the overwhelming majority of public, especially those who are liberal, are not on board. Like, they're not. They're not on board with wherever the you're at. Anyway, it's so funny that I wonder if it's like personal ambition. Richie Torres' comms director apparently doesn't put that he's the comm director in his bio. Yeah. The liberal populace, not influencers. No, most people, even conservatives, recognize what's going on as up. Most people do not favor Israel any longer. There's plenty of polling to show that. So when you got people who are disingenuously trying to defend Israel at this stage, like, good luck to them. You know, it's just not going to work. Even attacking Israel's critics don't work. Zohran Mamdani is actually a great example of what happens when people just try to farm that, like, outrage. They try to farm that outrage to be like, this guy hates Israel. And then people go, oh, sweet. I didn't know he was dope like that. You know? So all you do is end up promoting the person. What is this? True, he's right. Is absolutely true. No, because your rhetoric sounds a bit anti-Semitic. Then why is your chat being anti-Semitic? I think you're a little delusional, my friend, if you think this chat is being anti-Semitic. Or you went, no, because your rhetoric sounds a bit anti-Semitic. Hasan, why is every Jewish person who I spoke to, even people who are not pro-Israel, say that you're anti-Semitic? Can you point to something that I've said that you consider to be anti-Semitic instead of doing this, like, insane thing where I have to believe that you're running around encountering random Jewish people to be like, hey, Do you know this Hasan guy? Do you think he's anti-Semitic? Okay, I know many Jewish people. They are also anti-Zionist, and they don't think I'm anti-Semitic. Who wins now? I asked one extra Jewish person, then you asked, and they all said I'm not anti-Semitic. Guess what? You're owned. What now, libtard? That's awesome. I love that it's like a vague gesture, a vague gesturing towards like potential perceived subtle anti-Semitism. Like even when you're trying to attack me, you can't even come up with like a half decent response beyond, well, I asked Jewish people, and word on the street, word on J Street is that you're anti-Semitic. It's like, okay, well, what the do I say then? Okay, I know more Jewish people than you do, and they don't think I'm anti-Semitic. You know what I mean? I'm Jewish, and I'm familiar with the Jewish community. You still have not brought up what you think I have said that is anti-Semitic. He's upgrading the lie piece by piece. He's building on it. I'm Jewish, and I'm familiar with the Jewish community. Explain what the issue is, and I will address the misinformation. Also, this is obviously the underlying notion here is that there are no Jewish people in this chat right now watching potentially an anti-Semitic man. There are 100% more Jewish chatters in here right now than the number of Jewish people that you know, yourself included. Okay? So how does that work? If we're going off of like personal anecdotes, well, you just got owned. You know what I mean? There's 27,891 people in here. Okay? There are a ton of Jewish people in the chat right now. More than the number of Jewish people that you know. What now? Do you see why this is a stupid way to try and argue things? Okay, are you going to come up with like a thing that I've said that you think is anti-Semitic? Because even this article itself tries to posture and tries to act as though I am, and it fails to do that. I know close to 1,000 Jewish people because I live in an Orthodox Jewish community. Okay, there's more than 1,000 Jewish people in here. You're owned. You got owned, big dog. You got owned. There are 1,001 Jewish people in here. Guess what? You just got destroyed. Oh my God. Don't ever go ban for ban with me. Also, it's so funny that we've moved beyond the conversation. Oh, now it's 1,002. That's cap. Bro, just say what the problem is. Say why you arrived at this position. Okay? Please. Instead of being like, I know many Jews. I myself am Jewish. I live in a Jewish community. Like, just say what you think. What caused you to arrive at this false conclusion? Because you're in the community of someone who has spent the past decade plus fighting anti-Semitism. Okay? And that hasn't stopped post October 7 either. Like, it's still a intolerable bigotry. Okay? It still is. As a matter of fact, this is one of the increasingly smaller groups online where you can find someone who is not even remotely anti-Semitic, actively fights against anti-Semitism, while simultaneously also being an anti-Zionist. There are places out there, but let's be real. Most of the prominent communities at this point, a lot of prominent communities at this point, unfortunately, have definitely moved in a different direction. Okay? Not to say that like the anti-Zionist movement is anti-Semitic. I'm not saying that at all, but like some of the most prominent people who are anti-Israel, like Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, and many others, well, let's say they traffic in these conspiracies fairly openly. So, having said all of that, why is it that you have had such a hard time explaining what is anti-Semitic about what I have said? Someone said, how is Candace anti-Semitic? That's crazy. See, this is what I mean. Because some of your sentiment is indistinguishable from some neo-Nazis like Tucker and Candace, for example. Don't you think that those guys actually have a much easier time trafficking in anti-Semitic conspiracies as a direct consequence of Israel constantly billing everything it does, genocide, an apartheid state, and unlimited violence towards a captive population of Palestinians as doing it at the behest of the international Jewry? Don't you feel like that is the reason why people like Tucker Carlson or Candace Owens or Nicholas Fuentes can come across as not just like open anti-Semites, but instead people who are just boldly against the state of Israel, a reality that the overwhelming majority of the Western populations also realizes now? Don't you feel like they're maybe using this as an opportunity to traffic in anti-Semitic conspiracies? Don't you think that you're also behaving in an utterly insane manner by going after a person who doesn't do that, but because you're worried about anti-Zionism, perhaps, and that's the reason why you're in here? Because you've yet to give me a single specific example. You say some of your sentiment is indistinguishable from some neo-Nazi like Tucker and Candace Owens. You have not given a example. Perhaps the reason why you have not given an example is because you said Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens say Israel's an apartheid state. Israel's doing a genocide. If you were to say that and then say you say that too, then obviously you would come across like a moron, because once again, that is just the truth. You have yet to deliver a single example. Anyway, what are the sentiments that I am saying that are indistinguishable from some neo-Nazis like Tucker and Candace, for example? Give me an example and we'll talk. Okay. Crazy thing is he asked 1,000 Jewish people about you. He did not. Let's be real. Yeah. Do not ask this chatter why the majority of Jewish New Yorkers voted for Zohran Mamdani. You know, dangerous anti-Semite Zohran Mamdani. Okay. Don't ask him that. Anyway. Streamers otherwise mocked widespread concerns about blah, 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 continue to draw high-profile interviews. He's also hosted several high-profile lawmakers on a streaming platform, including Senators Bernie Sanders, Ed Markey, Representative AOC, Ro Khanna. Why don't they put Zoran on there? The New Yorker Festival, an annual multi-day event in New York City featuring well-known figures in the arts, media, politics, previously faced backlash for Steve Bannon. Okay, so it's basically just the summarization of the tweets. I don't know why you're still entertaining this obvious Reddit libcuck, as the spams are the same memes and propaganda talking points about you over and over again. This shit is so boring. You do this often. Sometimes it's fun to entertain the insanity. I don't think Zoran is anti-Semitic. Can you point to one singular difference that I have with respect to Israel between myself and Zoran Mamdani? Because the very same outlets that say I'm anti-Semitic and use clips out of context that say I'm anti-Semitic also do the same thing to Zoran Mamdani. So how did that happen? Is it perhaps because you would come across as like a fool if you are more radical than Zoran on Israel? No. Zoran has a long history of advocacy for Palestinian emancipation, participated in a lot of the same groups that I highlight. It's not true. Also, once again, not a single argument has been presented so far. Not a single argument has been presented at all. He says Israel has a right to exist. No, he couches his criticism with like liberal, with a liberal patina. He makes it more appropriate for the liberal palate. Okay? As in, he says Israel has a right to exist as a state that gives equal rights and representation to all citizens unconditionally, a democratic non-ethno state with equal rights, as in the abolition of the apartheid. I'm telling you right now, I guarantee it's just because the shadow has seen you yell and swear and hasn't seen Zoran do that. So even though you have the same takes, Zoran comes off as less radical. Oh, for sure. And also, I'm not running for office, so obviously I'm not like trying to be politically correct or even actively trying to win liberals over to the same degree that he is.